Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our virtual program today called Demystifying the Grant Writing Process. My name is Hadiza Saadu. I am the Small Business and Nonprofit Specialist here at the Kansas City Public Library. Today is Monday, October 16th, and it is just after 11 a.m. And I see we have 7 participants, including myself. And before we jump into things, I just wanted to let you all know if you have a question or have a comment, please feel free to share that. You can share that either by unmuting yourself and raising your hand to speak, or you can share your comments or questions into the chat. Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. Got one more person who just joined. I do want to start off by kind of just going through 3 goals that I identified when coming up with this program. And before even getting into that, I want to just kind of like couch this in why I even decided to do this. So as I mentioned, I am the Small Business and Nonprofit Specialist here at the Kansas City Public Library. I actually started my role here as solely the Small Business Specialist. And then we had a separate nonprofit specialist who retired, and I absorbed his duties. So since he retired about a little over 3 years ago, I have, I would say, accumulated some knowledge related to the process of actually going about applying for open grant opportunities. So I have worked with people that are seeking grants for their nonprofit organizations. And I've also worked with people that are trying to form a nonprofit organization. And just over the amount of time of working with different individuals in the nonprofit world and seeing a lot of the same questions coming up, but also seeing a lot of the same patterns as far as best practices happening over time, it made sense in my brain to try to put something together just to share some common steps you can take as a nonprofit professional to be ready for open grant opportunities. So as far as the goals that I've set forth for our time today, the first goal here is to share steps that you can take that better prepare yourself to take advantage of relevant grant opportunities. Next goal that I've identified is for those that are participating, that are watching, to identify the digital resources that support grant writing, budget creation, and overall grant search through the Kansas City Public Library digital catalog. And last but not least, final goal is to increase the awareness of local nonprofit support organizations that provide free and low-cost services. So that being said, I do want to just kind of hopefully orient people's expectations for this program today. This is not a workshop. So I just want to be really clear, this isn't necessarily going to be like an interactive type of thing. If you have something you'd love to share or have a question, you're absolutely welcome to do that and participate that way. But this is not the type of program where I'm having you kind of do exercises or things like that. This is really a program to share tips and best practices, as well as the resources that can help you. So as far as our agenda, how we're going to be spending our time, I've already covered goals. After this, we're going to go into a few disclaimers that I've started to kind of tease out, as well as some definitions of terms. that come up a lot in the nonprofit world and can be a little confusing if you're new to the world. And then we're going to go into where to begin. How do you even get started as far as taking advantage of grant opportunities and getting yourself ready as a nonprofit organization? Then we're going to get into some organization. How do you get organized and what are the things that you need to have ready? And then we will be talking about budgets. I will mention that I don't have any budget templates that I will be showing, but we will be talking about inputs that go into a budget and the things that you will be needing to think about when you're ready to create a budget, as well as the resources that are available to you to help you with that. And so segue into the final section of our time today, which will be an overall summary of the resources that are available to you, both digital that are within our digital catalog and out in the community. All right. So disclaimers. I want everyone here to know that I am not a grant writer and I do not write grants for others. This is something that I feel is important to just put out there because there can be confusion sometimes with my role. Sometimes people think that I actually do the grant writing. That is absolutely not the case. If you are looking for somebody to hire, there are resources available that provide that. But just know that if you are seeking help as far as like hands-on, I need someone to kind of do this for me. This is not that kind of program. And that is something that you're going to definitely have to budget for. I am also not a tax expert. I have accumulated knowledge over time, thanks in large part to our digital resource called Legal GPS. But I myself am not a tax expert, so I can't necessarily answer questions about tax structures or what you should do about taxes. That is something that a professional tax preparer or a tax attorney would need to be able to, you'd need to contact someone in that field specifically to get those types of answers if those are the questions that you have. But again, I do work with individuals who are seeking grants for 501c3 nonprofit organizations, as well as for their own individual situations. Those are less common, but I do work with people that are seeking grants specifically. What I can say as far as my own direct experience with writing grants is I am a musician, and about 4 years ago, I successfully landed a grant through Arts KC to fund an art project. So the biggest takeaway that I took from that was it was the budget. That was the biggest piece and biggest, I guess, point of headache for me. But what it did for me as an individual that was seeking an opportunity was that it forced me to really think about all of the things that are going to go into the project. And it helped me be a lot more strategic about what I was even asking for. All right, so with that said, we will get into some terms and definitions. And so I've got 3 terms here on the screen, starting with RFP, or request for proposal. I know that this is a term that is thrown around a lot and it can be confusing, especially when you're not necessarily sure from what angle are these terms being shared. So when we're talking about an RFP, anytime you're seeing those letters or the words, you're talking about a document that is describing a project's needs and asks for proposed solutions from qualified organizations or vendors. So what that really means is we're talking about a funding or
I've lost your audio.
Same here.
And here. I'm not a guru at this, Hadiza, but if you unhook the audio and then hook it back up, it's that up arrow from the mute button.
Nope.
Oh, and sorry, I that was just for the press.
Apologies, everyone. Things are a little bit makeshift, and I am the presenter and facilitator, so I am handling the technical difficulties in addition to presenting. So I will just go ahead and reintroduce myself. We had a pause. My name is Hadiza Saadu. I am the Small Business and Nonprofit Specialist here at the Kansas City Public Library. We had to pause briefly because of an audio issue, and now we are resuming. And so we were just talking about RFPs. And I will go ahead and just reread this definition here. So an RFP is a document that describes a project's needs and asks for proposed solutions coming from qualified organizations or vendors. So in this definition, the qualified organization or vendor is you, the nonprofit organization. So you can think of an RFP or request for proposal as a document that a funding institution that has a specific angle or a specific desire put out there is trying to find the relevant organizations whose missions and purposes align with whatever the project is to actually complete that project for the funding. Next, we have letter of inquiry, or LOI. This might be a term that you've seen thrown around, or you might have seen the letters LOI thrown around, and you're not quite sure what those mean. So what this is, it can be part of a bigger proposal, but what it is fundamentally is it is a letter that you as the grant-seeking organization write to a foundation that describes your organization and your project in a way that is going to entice or inspire the foundation to support you through funding. So these typically they're not very long. They're not usually more than 3 pages. And a lot of times these are all that a foundation is going to request from you. Sometimes an LOI is going to lead to a foundation actually inviting you to submit a larger proposal. But understand that a letter of inquiry, if you have that taken care of, you have a big part of a grant proposal taken care of. Okay, last but not least, you might be familiar with this term, you might not be, but I wanted to just kind of point it out as a way to access support from a foundation. So we've got in-kind donations. If you're a 501c3 organization, in addition to receiving a cash grant from a foundation, you're also eligible to receive in-kind support, which is in the form of a tangible asset or a service. So it's, instead of getting direct cash, you can think of an in-kind donation as maybe even sort of a form of barter, where you're not necessarily dealing with cash, but you're dealing with the exchange of, or the donation of, tangible assets and services from a foundation or a funding institution. Okay, and I know there were some questions that were put into the chat. Yes, this recording will be sent out, as well as the presentation. Genesis asked, does this information help if you are a profit? No, this is for 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So this is not intended for profit organizations that would be like an LLC or a corporation. Okay, next slide, if it will let me go. Okay, there we go. So where to even begin? I know that some of you have been in the world of grant writing before. So if you want to add anything to this, feel free to. Or if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to throw those in the chat. But in just kind of thinking through this, when I've been working with people, I'm trying to just kind of consolidate, what are the things that you need to have to even begin? So before you even take out your computer or a pen and paper to write anything down, even just in having an assessment with yourself, having a conversation with yourself, this is where we're going to start. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, are you currently operating with 501c3 tax exempt status? The answer to that question is going to determine the rest of your options. If you do not currently have your 501c3 tax exempt status, you are not going to be able to take advantage of pretty much any grant opportunities that are out there. So you're going to need to get your tax exempt status. And there is a tool in our digital catalog that can help you do exactly that. It's called Legal GPS, and I will show it to you very briefly here. Hyperlinks, if it will come up. So while that is coming up, are you seeing now the Kansas City Public Library website? Want to just nod or shake your head?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I am sharing the right screen. Okay, here we go. Now can you see it? Awesome. Okay. So what we're looking at here is our digital catalog, and we're looking at the entry of Legal GPS. This is a tool that removes legal barriers for entrepreneurs and aspiring business owners, and they do this by providing a series of step-by-step questionnaires that tell you what to do. So in this tool, I am going to try to go super fast. Okay, so we're on the LLC version. With this tool, how it works is it has you basically tell it what kind of organization do you want to set up, a for-profit or a nonprofit. And if you're going to set up a nonprofit, it becomes pretty straightforward. So really, really, really fast, I'm going to breeze through this. First question, hi there, have you created a legal entity? We're going to say no because we haven't. We're trying to create a nonprofit though.
Next, are you creating a profit or a nonprofit organization? In this situation, we're doing a nonprofit. I confirm that answer. And that makes our level 1 question super short, which means now we're ready to calibrate or just move on to the next level. And I will just let y'all know that I am available here for one-on-one help. This is something that I work with people one-on-one with all the time. So absolutely feel free to schedule a meeting with me, and I will make sure that you have my link to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me in the follow-up email. So just so that everyone knows, once you complete level 1 in Legal GPS, you get to the results page, and what your job here is to read what's going on in the results. Here, this is just an orientation to how the rest of the tool is going to work. You're not getting any meat, as far as the legal steps you need to take. This is really just, hey, welcome to Legal GPS. This is what this tool is. This is what you've done so far, and this is what you can expect for each level. I'm not going to go through that right now, but there's a lot of information in here. So if your eyes are lighting up, understand that this is your best friend. So when you complete a task, you need to make sure that you mark it complete on the top right-hand side here. So you'll mark that complete, and then you'll go back to the task list. You're done with all the tasks. I'm sorry.
She likes to bring her treats in here, Mary Kate.
Okay, I'm going to
Welcome.
just mute everyone here so that we can reduce distractions. Okay, so after level 1, once you're complete with that, you will go to level 2 and answer the questions in there. So because you've told this tool, I'm going to create a nonprofit, level 2 is oriented to everything that has to do with creating a nonprofit. So level 2's questions are going to be asking you about the steps. Have you taken these specific steps to form your nonprofit? One of these steps here is, have you selected at least 3 directors? I'm going to go ahead and just say no. I'm going to answer everything as if we have not done anything for the nonprofit. And I will confirm the answer there. I'm going to say I'm not sure about where I need to incorporate my nonprofit. And that if you, just for your knowledge, when you use Legal GPS as a nonprofit organization, it doesn't really matter how far you've gotten along in the process. The amount of questions you're going to have are going to be pretty short relative to if you were a for-profit organization with Legal GPS, because it's pretty straightforward when it comes to the decisions that you need to make if you know you're going to be a nonprofit. But I really just wanted to take you all to level 2's results, because I wanted to just let you all see how this works once you get to level 2 and you've told the tool, hey, I am going to create a nonprofit, and I haven't done anything to make that happen yet. Once you're in level 2 and you've answered the questions, these are what your results will look like. And I'm going to kind of just frame this as level 2 is going to give you all of the steps that you need to take with the context and the logic, with all of the decisions that go into each step included and baked in. So after we read welcome to level 2, which is just the generic, here's level 2, then we can look at the rest of these steps as all of the steps you have to take in the correct order to then actually get your nonprofit to be tax exempt and recognized by the Secretary of State and the IRS. So the first thing that you're going to do in this process is pick the best state. There is a whole decision-making process that goes into that is based off of your own specific nonprofit and what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do your operations. And this first task is going to help you navigate all of that. But ultimately, the first thing that you're going to decide is which state are you going to form your nonprofit. Then, after you are certain about which state you're going to form your nonprofit, you are ready to choose the name for your nonprofit. And this will take you through all of that. And after you have ensured that your name is not being taken by any other entity in your home state, you are then ready to do a trademark search to ensure that you're not infringing on anybody's intellectual property with your name. So after you have ensured all of that, then you're ready to actually file the nonprofit articles of incorporation. Legal GPS includes a template, and it includes all of the language that you need to do this correctly. Then once you're done with that, which will take about 20 minutes, you're ready to actually choose and appoint your directors and officers for the nonprofit. And once you've done that, then you're ready to do the bylaws. Again, Legal GPS includes a template in here, and you can customize that. Once you have completed the bylaws, then you're ready to actually appoint the directors, the officers, and then complete the initial resolutions. And this will take you through all of that. And then once you've done all of those things, and this last step, a lot of people tend to do earlier just because it is a lot more straightforward. But once the ideal situation is that you will get your EIN after you've completed all of these other steps, and it will take you through the exact steps that you need to go through to get your EIN. So I just wanted to briefly show you that in Legal GPS. We're not going to look at the meat of that. It's quite a lot of information. But this is available to you if you are at the very beginning of a nonprofit formation journey and you have questions about actually getting your tax exempt status. Legal GPS can walk you through that. And I am here to help you as well. Okay, so we're going to go back to our presentation here. Pause the share, pull this back up. Okay, so once you have decided where you're at with the 501c3, if you haven't already received your tax exempt status, you are either going to be finishing up the process of getting your 501c3 tax exempt status, or you're going to be like, oh, I'm ready to go because I already have my tax exempt. So the next thing that you need to really think through and drill down in, if you have not already, is thinking about what is your purpose? Why do you exist? What groups of people do you target to serve? These three questions are extremely important, especially if you're going to be using the foundation directory online, which gives you access to profiles of foundations that will let you know who are those foundations targeting as far as the populations they want to serve through grant funding, and why do they exist? What is their purpose? So, the sooner you start asking these questions to yourself, the easier it's going to become over time to articulate your mission and to articulate your mission in different ways so that you can get in front of relevant opportunities that may not have the exact same language that you use, but are aligned as far as what your purpose is and who you're serving. Okay, then the next question you really need to ask yourself is, what is it that you're actually trying to fund? Are you trying to get your nonprofit off the ground? Is this a startup type situation? Or are you already off the ground and you're trying to put on a specific program, or do you have a specific project that you're trying to fund? Something that can really help with this and being able to answer this question clearly to yourself is a tool called the Nonprofit Startup Assessment Tool, which we will look at in a little bit. But this tool is a tool that's part of Candid or GrantSpace, if you're familiar with that. And all you need to do is to create an account, and you'll go through a series of questions that helps you really just assess where am I at in my nonprofit journey, especially if you are pre-501c3 tax exempt status. Okay, next we're going to get into getting organized. What I found or have just observed as far as helping people individually, organization is probably one of the biggest hurdles with this. I think that there's a lot of the reason why this is called demystifying the grant writing process is because I think there's a lot of mystification in the world of writing grants. A lot of kind of shrouding and obscuring of what actually needs to happen. And in working with people, yes, grants are not all the same, but again, there are things that you can do as an individual representing a nonprofit that will make sure that you're ready for those relevant grant opportunities. And the first thing is to really be able to articulate your mission. What is your why? I know that's kind of a vague question that people sometimes throw out there, but in the nonprofit context, your mission statement summarizes your organization's key activities as well as the groups of the people that you serve. And so it is an active statement. You are using active language. You're using verbs. So you're doing something to serve a group of people for a specific reason that has been identified. Having a clear mission not only keeps you clear about what you're doing, but helps you identify the right foundations as funding prospects. There is a tool that can help you with this, and it is called Gale Business Plan Builder. We'll look at it in just a little bit. It has a for-profit and a nonprofit version. When you use it as a nonprofit organization, you will obviously select the nonprofit version. And they've got something embedded in it called the Mission Canvas with prompts that can help you really think about all of the inputs that you need to consider that will help you actually see your mission through. So after that's clear for you, then you're ready to articulate your program or project. So again, if you're seeking funds to begin operations, you're really in the market for a startup grant or seed funding. And you'll need to explain that. That's basically your project. If you're seeking funds for a specific program that your nonprofit operates, this is where you're going to be describing that specific program. So I just want to be super clear here. You could either be funding the actual nonprofit itself, getting off the ground so you can begin operations, or you are actually trying to fund a specific program that your nonprofit operates. But it's very important to be super clear about that. It might even be a hybrid thing where you are seeking funds to get off the ground and you're seeking funds to operate your first program. But being very clear about those things is going to be extremely important. Okay, so getting even more organized. Now, after we've sort of talked through what's going on with our nonprofit to ourselves and our board, now we're ready to open up a blank document. And I'm specifying blank document here because I want you to know that you have the power within. Sorry, I don't mean to be cheesy with that, but there are templates out there that you can find, but the biggest thing that you are going to be looking for, if that's the case, is your own answers, what's going to actually be in the application. So I'm just saying this to say that looking for a template to kind of put everything in there that will just have you kind of fill in the blanks. Being able to know what those blanks are before you even find a template is going to leave you so much more empowered and leave you in control. So this page, I am kind of taking the basic points that you will see in any letter of interest and kind of adapting it into a I don't know how to describe this, but you can kind of think of this as I can create my own template here. And if I have an introduction, an organization description, a statement of need, and an articulation of the program evaluation just ready to go, these are things that I can put into a letter of interest for a specific foundation and tweak it based off of what they're asking for, but I already have it written down. So to get into it, what goes into an introduction? The introduction you can think of as your executive summary. And I will then again plug Gale Business Plan Builder because that will also help you articulate an executive summary. But your executive summary is really a description of the project. It also includes the total amount that you need for your project and the reasons why the foundation should want to support your mission through this project. So having that written down and not just in your head is gonna do so many wonders for your confidence and just your ability to go ahead and take advantage of open opportunities. Once you've completed that introduction, then you're ready to actually describe your organization as a whole. So this is where, if you have been operating, this is where you're gonna kind of go through the history. How did your organization begin? Who have you served? Who do you serve now? And if you have any metrics that you've been collecting, this will be the best opportunity to display those metrics and talk about a little bit of the impact to date. This is also an opportunity to talk about things you're actually doing, as well as aligning those activities to the goals that you have for the future. If you're a brand new organization, this is the opportunity to describe why you exist and what led to you actually forming the organization. This is where you're talking about observing the need, being affected by the problem that you've identified, and then wanting to do something about it. This then will lead into the statement of need. And statement of need is not talking about, hey, I'm the nonprofit organization, or I represent this nonprofit organization and I need this money. No, statement of need is, in the eyes of the people that you serve, why is your organization important? What is the actual need that you are addressing through your nonprofit? So hopefully that's clear. And last but absolutely not least, and maybe the most difficult, program evaluation. And this can look different. So if you see terms like methodology, anything that's related to methodology or evaluation or assessment, this is where you are articulating how you and your board members have decided you're going to actually measure the impact of what you're doing. How are you achieving your mission? And this is going to be very specific to your organization. So it will require time to think through. But if this has been in operation, you can identify, past work with specific individuals that, anonymize. If you want to articulate a story, that could be a way to evaluate your program's impact, where you're doing storytelling, or it could just be raw numbers. We've served this many people. And then through that, you can articulate, we've served this many people doing this specific program, leading to whatever intended impact. But ultimately, foundations really want to know that you have thought through how you're going to see this mission through. They want to know that you are basically good for your word, and that if things don't go right, you're still assessing that, and you have controls in place that will help you kind of pivot or tweak what you're doing so that you're better serving the groups that you've identified that your organization is intended to help. Okay, so hopefully that's clear enough as far as organization. But this is all leading into the budget. And I will say again, the budget is going to be the biggest time commitment. It's going to be the most important part of your proposal. And just internally, even if they're not asking for a full budget, knowing what's going on with your expenses is even more empowering than just writing down your mission, writing down your program description, and articulating what your organization is about. Getting that budget figured out is basically putting the, more oomph behind your organization and what you're trying to do. It puts the numbers to the actual project and makes things a lot more real. And it's also a little daunting because whenever we're talking about budgets, we're also probably talking about spreadsheets. And a lot of people are a little worried about opening up Excel. And I just want you all to know it's a lot less daunting than it seems. It's really just about being very clear about what you're trying to fund and finding those numbers. So the first thing that you're going to do is take the time to identify your expenses. So this is coming after being super clear about what it is you're funding. So hopefully you can see the logic here. You have to be very clear on what you're funding to be able to identify the relevant expenses. Because you could be wanting to fund, I don't know, a capital project. Maybe you want to purchase a new building, but then you also have a program that you're trying to fund. You're going to want to figure out, okay, am I trying to put these two things together in one campaign, or am I trying to fund these things separately? Those are going to be the decisions that you make. But again, once you're here, you're clear about what it is that you're funding. So we're just going to say we're funding a specific project or a specific program that's serving people. Here, we're just going to identify what our biggest costs are. That's what we're going to start with. As far as the program goes. Scale Business Plan Builder, again, I am plugging this tool a lot. It can help with this. There is a section in that tool called the break-even analysis where you can list out expenses based off of broad categories that they have identified, which include payroll, communications, HR, things like that. So that can help you as far as identifying the broader categories. And then over time, you can break those categories down into more specific categories. Here, using the same word again. Also, know that many grant opportunities are going to ask you to itemize, somehow state, or in some way indicate what your expenses are. So that's all just to say that doing the work up front to craft your budget without them necessarily asking or without a specific grant opportunity in mind is going to save you so much time and headache later. Okay, so getting deeper into that. Again, start early, open your document often. So whatever your document is, it can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be a downloaded template from Gale Business Plan Builder. But this is something that you're going to want to come back to. So I've started sort of to touch on what goals you're kind of achieving once you do the budget. But internally, your budget and going through the exercise of doing your budget is going to pretty much force you to know what to prioritize with your costs. So it's going to be the opportunity for you to, one, if maybe you thought you were clear about what it is you were trying to fund, but then you're trying to do your budget and now you're like, oh, actually, I'm not sure, like maybe we should prioritize this instead of that. This will basically be kind of a catalyst to go back and revise, okay, what exactly are we actually asking for here? We have all these things we need to fund, but what are we trying to prioritize right now? Second, it's also going to let you know exactly how much to ask for. a lot of times people have more of a rounded number or a vague number of money that they're trying to ask for. A budget is going to let you be able to ask to the penny, how much do I really need? And internally as well, the last thing that's very important with a budget is being able to identify alternative income sources. So what happens if you can't actually get that grant? What are your other options? Or maybe you realize, oh, we don't really have other income sources that we've considered. Now it's time to start to maybe think through what are some alternatives. Maybe we need to have fundraisers and solicit donations from the general public, that type of thing. Externally, having a budget done shows to foundations and funders that you've taken the time to discover the true cost of achieving your mission. And they want to know that you've taken that time. And it also bleeds into them understanding and you being able to show that you're serious and ready to use their financial support. Okay, continued, the budget. So again, we're starting with expenses. These expenses are going to be related to exactly what it is you are trying to fund. So you need to be clear on what you're funding before you even get to listing the budget expenses. So you've got your cost drivers. What are going to be those sources of cost? Maybe you don't know the exact expenses yet, but you know that your expenses are going to come from these particular sources. So that's where research is going to be your best friend. If you're not certain, based off of historical experience or talking with other people, this is your opportunity to research more in depth what those costs will be. And again, you can use your prior history if you've already been in operation. Also, it's very important with your budget that it's balanced. So I've started to allude to this as far as identifying alternative income sources. But after you've listed out your expenses, you have to figure out a way to balance your budget with the income. So grant funding may well be your entire source of income to balance your budget. It just depends on the expenses. If it's not, again, this is your opportunity to identify other potential income sources. This is going now back to the term that I included in our definitions slide. This is where you can start to consider in-kind support from foundations. And this is where, if you're very clear about what you need, you can ask for in-kind support from a foundation in your proposal, in addition to a dollar amount. Okay, so that's budget. Now I'm going to get into a summary of the resources that are available to you with the rest of our time here today. And I want to thank you all for your attention and for attending this. I have talked so much about this. I've mentioned this so many different times now. So it's first, but the first tool we have here is the Gale Business Plan Builder. And now I'm actually going to take you to the tool so that you know what it looks like. And I'm going to do a new share. That way we are seeing my screen. So you should be able to see the Kansas City Public Library screen here. We are back in the digital catalog and we are on Gale Business Plan Builder. So to get here, you will be on the KC Library homepage. And you'll go to resources/research. And you'll go to G for Gale Business. There are two different Gale, well, there's a lot of Gale products here, but there are two Gale Business products here. We are focused on Gale Business Plan Builder. So when you are in the digital catalog, you'll click on More Info, and then you'll click on Access Gale Business Plan Builder. So just so that you know, if you're outside of the library, this will be, once you click on this link, you will then put in your library card number and PIN to access the tool outside of the library. But if you're inside a library location, you're already going to be authenticated and you'll go directly to the tool. and you will create an account with this tool. I have one, so I will just sign in, but you'll click on Get Started. It will take you to a page that looks like this. And I should actually open this on my other browser. That way, I don't have to put in my information. So I will do that. Okay. So Scale Business Plan Builder, get started. You will set your username and password and sign in. This is what it looks like when you are logged in for the first time. It will ask you to select your incorporation type. It defaults to for-profit, but you can select nonprofit. Then you'll see that the corresponding modules change on the left-hand side here. So we've got a founder profile. This will ask you a series of questions. Ideation is where you will then access the mission canvas. And this is something that if you have not seen this before and it's a little daunting, I can help you with this one-on-one. But there are prompts that are included with each of the different sections in the mission canvas. But just know that each of these different sections are key components of your organization's purpose and mission that you need to think through to be able to actually deliver on your mission. And so when you click on any of these boxes, there will be prompts that are intended to help you think through this. And the prompts are designed to really help you think through this from the beneficiary or the people you're serving perspective. And I know we don't really have time to really get into the nuts and bolts of that. So if this is something that you're interested in completing and you're wanting help, I'm here for that. But this is Gale Business Plan Builder. This is the mission canvas. And then we've got the break-even analysis that I mentioned here where you can list out your expenses. You don't have to create a template through Excel to do this. They have the broad categories here, which include payroll, rent, communications, marketing, inventory, professional, insurance, loan repayment, which is likely not the situation y'all are going to be in. But if you had a loan, you would include that in there. Other as well. And you can edit the table to change what these things are listing as far as the totals. Okay. So that is Gale Business Plan Builder. Get back to our presentation. Okay, so there we go. So I just showed you Gale Business Plan Builder. I'll also make sure to include a link to that in the follow-up email. We went through Legal GPS. I will share that as well. I mentioned in the nonprofit startup assessment tool. I will show you where that is. Let me get this into the other browser. Okay, so, okay, I think we're on pause. Okay, let me make sure that this is sharing. All right. Now we are on the Nonprofit Startup Assessment Tool page. This is a tool that is part of GrantSpace. You will access it I don't believe you need to have your library card information outside of the library to access this, but you will create an account similar to creating an account with Yale Business Plan Builder or Legal GPS. You'll create an account here. But just note that with this tool, you will take this diagnostic if you meet any of these criteria you're thinking about, or you've started to form a nonprofit, you have never navigated the process of incorporation and applying for 501c3 status, you're looking for funding to support a community project, you're hoping to gain employment by founding a nonprofit organization, or you already have your 501c3 and you need help implementing program ideas. This is just what the assessment itself looks like. I've already done some of this, but there are 10 sections here that span just getting started, what your inspiration and goals are, what kind of financial capital you have access to. You've got human capital, social capital. So this might be confusing. What is the difference between human capital and social capital? With human capital, you're talking about your internal staff and volunteers. Your social capital, you're talking about how you are perceived in the community and what kind of relationships you can leverage. You've got program development as well, market analysis, where do you fit in the market, who are the other organizations that are similar to you, or who you might be able to ally with to complete your mission. And then your volunteers and board, how is that structure going to look like? Section 9, overall nonprofit knowledge, and then background information. So there's quite a few questions here, but after you complete each section, you'll be able to view insights and resources that are related to each section, as you can see here, based off of how you answer. I will say it is a lot less, I guess, reactive or customizable than Legal GPS, but there's a lot of good information in here, and it is very all specific to the nonprofit world. So that is the nonprofit startup assessment tool. And then the last digital resource I want to share with you all is the Foundation Directory Online. If you're not familiar with this tool, this is a tool that provides access to information about potential funders for your grant or for your nonprofit organization that is seeking a grant. So let me resume this share. Oh, not that one. Okay. Foundation Directory Online. One thing to note about this tool, it's only available at the Central Library. So you'll need to make a trip downtown if you want to access it. You can access it on your computer if you bring a laptop or other device to the library, or you can use any of the computers available at Central to access this. Alternatively, you can also schedule a meeting with me and I can share my screen to show you how to navigate the Foundation Directory Online if that's something you're interested in doing and you can't make a trip down here. And that information will be shared through the follow-up email as well. But this is the Foundation Directory Online. Basically, it works by either running a key phrase search or using the advanced search and filters to find relevant grant opportunities. And this is just what it looks like. I won't be going through it today. There's actually quite a few programs that I've done that go through Foundation Directory Online itself, and I will share that in the follow-up email as well. All right. Thanks for letting me know, Janelle. All right. I will briefly now cover some of the resources that are available to you here in Kansas City. And since we are running up to the end of our time, okay. So this is just a summary of some of the resources that are available to the nonprofit community here in Kansas City. We've got the Midwest Center for Nonprofit Leadership, which is part of UMKC. And they provide a lot of resources as far as just learning resources for people that are representing nonprofit organizations. They don't actually provide any direct assistance with grant writing, so I apologize, they are not available for that. But there's a link to this available here. Nonprofit Connects, I want to briefly highlight, if it will take me there. Okay, so Nonprofit Connect, it lists jobs that are in the nonprofit sector, but I want to highlight the program's calendar here. There's a lot of different programs that are happening here that you should absolutely take advantage of. Some of them are free, some of them are low cost, but they are all listed on the Nonprofit Connect calendar. They've also got specific resources that they have available through them. Take a look at here. But it might make sense to become a member to take advantage of the resources that they have. So that's Nonprofit Connect. And we'll go back to our slide here. Got Nonprofit Connect. Support KC also Support KC also provides direct resources to nonprofit organizations. They also work off of a membership status. If I can get this open as well. So what they do is they provide resources to nonprofit organizations, low and free cost. You do have to get in contact with them, but they've got kind of a summary of all of the things that they do here, including accounting and fiscal management, governance and strategy, database management, and fund development. So this might be something that you would like to take advantage of if you are already operating as a 501c3 nonprofit. Now, of course, we'll share that in the follow-up email. There is one more resource I want to cover here that's in the community, and this is the United Way of Greater Kansas City Nonprofit Catalyst Fund. This is an opportunity that is available to nonprofit organizations, and it is intended for Black, Latino, and other people of color-led nonprofit organizations, led and serving. So there's more details listed in here. But the whole point of this grant is to reduce some of the systemic barriers that exist due to systemic racism. And so they have identified this opportunity. This is intended for small nonprofit organizations, and it is kind of like not revolving door, I can't remember the term, but it's a rolling application. So there is not a due date necessarily for this. So that information is all on this webpage, and I just wanted to make you all aware of that so that you can all take the time on your own to assess if those opportunities and resources are actually relevant for your needs. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share here. I know we are a little bit over time. I wanted to see if anybody had any questions about the content for today, or if they had anything to share.
What do you recommend, Hadiza, for a capital campaign? So we have a small nonprofit for dogs, and we've made it to a certain extent on our own, but we're kind of trying to grow. Which of those resources should I start with?
For the capital campaign, I think, have you used the Foundation Directory Online before?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I would recommend starting there because there's a lot of big foundations in there that do support that kind of thing. The one drawback with Foundation Directory Online is that it doesn't have that many open or current RFP opportunities listed in the database itself.
Okay.
But it's got a lot of information about the foundations, and then 95% of the time a link to their website that usually will have an open grant opportunity, or at least a way to get in contact with the people that know about the grant cycles.
Okay, thank you.
And I realized I did not include my scheduling information. I will, in the slides, I will include that in the follow-up email. That way you guys can have the direct link to just go ahead and schedule a meeting with me. Chat and see if there's any. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
It
I'm
doesn't seem
amazed
like-
at the number of tools that are now available to help out. This is wonderful.
I'm so glad to hear that. This is the first time I've done a program like this because it's, I think up until pretty much now at my point in this job, I have not been able to like speak confidently about this. But I just wanted to make this available because again, like I think there's a lot of mystifying out there, and also just like maybe even disempowering messaging out there that kind of gets people thinking that, oh, I'm not the one that can do this. Somebody else has to do it, or an expert has to do it. But if you are the one running your nonprofit organization, you're the best person to do the grant. So that was the goal. That was the biggest goal of this. So thank you so much for that feedback, Barbara. I definitely want to continue doing programs like this. And we are actually getting ready to open a public space on our 3rd floor at the Central Library to be able to do hybrid programming. So in the future, I want to be able to do versions of this, but bring in partners that can speak more to what they're actually doing in the community. And that way people can actually have a touch point and get connected with the resources themselves that are beyond the library.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank you all for your patience with the technical difficulties. Hopefully that didn't throw a wrench in things for other people. But again, this is being recorded right now. I will send that recording, hopefully, I don't know if it'll be the end of the day today, but shortly. But the first thing I will send is the follow-up email that includes the presentation, as well as the direct links to all of the resources and a link to schedule a meeting with me if that is something that you think will be helpful for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. I know we're 10 minutes over. I hope that you enjoy your Monday. Right.